feature presentation.
Welcome back to another Untitled movie review. I am one of your hosts, Matt Rohrbeck, alongside, he's allergic to tomatoes, but he is tomato meter approved, Eric Marchin.
Are you ready to talk about a sweet mustache, Matt?
Oh my God, the best mustache. Yes, today we are reviewing Kenneth Branagh's Death on the Nile, starring quite the cast of Kenneth Branagh, Tom Bateman, Annette Bening, Russell Brand, Ali Fazal, Don French, Gal Gadot, Armie Hammer, Rose Leslie, Emmy Mackey, Sophie Okonedo, Jennifer Saunders, Letitia Wright, and more. A few names in there you might go, ooh.
More
uh,
than one. I mean, last time around with
1 to
Murder on the
3.
Orient Express, it was only
Yeah.
Johnny Depp. And it was interesting because with the casting of Johnny Depp in that movie, everybody already knew some of his problems
Yeah.
outside of film and him being a
For a little
questionable.
bit, right? Like, did he cast him after all of those
Yeah.
allegations?
Mhm.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Where with
I just
this,
thought it was like bad luck both
it
times,
seemed
but
like the more the movie was delayed, the more like certain cast members would just either
say
say
awful
or
things or
do
yeah.
certain things.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is going to be something that we will address probably periodically throughout the review.
Mhm.
But essentially what you get is a um you know throwback to melodramatic sort of serials and whodunits told with state of the art VFX, two prologues, one of which is an origin story
It's
for
incredible.
Hercule Poirot's wonderful mustache.
Oh, the best.
On the front lines during No Man's Land in World War One. Then you have a second prologue that kind of introduces some of the suspects before even getting to Egypt.
That sequence where they explain everyone's motives, the best.
Yeah,
It's
but
just
it's also that's maybe the one scene that I felt most uncomfortable with Armie Hammer in, just because of
sure.
how hot and heavy he gets with Emma McKay's character, and it's like knowing the
I agree,
allegations,
yeah.
like it's just like, oh, this is I feel like icky watching that, and
There's that
also
sequence and then another one with Gal Gadot later that's just like very
yeah.
aggressively sexual that is just kind of off-putting, yeah.
Yeah, and then from there you kind of get into the plot of what Agatha Christie wrote, and it's just interesting as well that like it takes place in 37. You have this fastidious protagonist who this world famous detective. I like that the this character is always about kind of finding a balance because his obsessive compulsive disorder kind of triggers him to kind of
Yeah.
correct things and course correct things and figure things out and solve it because he cannot rest until it's done. And like I like just like the little things in Michael Green's adaptation, the screenwriter, where like when he's at this kind of fancy nightclub and he's kind of the guest of honor getting all these
Testing the
desserts,
desserts,
he
yeah.
he only wants six, right? Because he doesn't like odd numbers because he's originally presented with seven. But I also love that the film is bookended 6 weeks in between each one, between the sort of the
That is
main
very
events,
clever, yeah.
and just little things like that. And I think like understandably, some of the cast is very problematic. Um, some of the CGI is not great, but I think as a whodunit murder mystery and as kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of sort of origin story to Hercule Poirot, it works. And I think
Yeah.
Kenneth Branagh is actually really good as this protagonist. I think he's better than the direction or the writing, and it's a shame that like maybe a I mean he's not a bad filmmaker obviously,
Just
but
nominated for best director
yeah,
and
I mean,
best
this is
picture.
I texted you as soon as I saw it. And I said I'm going to sound like a contrarian, but I enjoyed Death on the Nile more than Belfast, and I think there's something just kind of sincere about what this movie is. Like, it's not trying to be anything more than just kind of a fun grown-up murder mystery that obviously has been done many times. The Peter Ustinov version, a lot of people don't really love him as Poirot. A lot of people kind of considered David Suchet to be the quintessential version, and a lot of the BBC kind of TV movies and things
Yeah,
like
my
that. And
mom
then
watched a lot of those. Yeah.
yeah, and then like even the Sidney Lumet movie, which is kind of like dirtier and grosser, and like you can see like in like Albert Finney's mustache, like the wax and all that stuff. Like, it's kind of a slog to get through. Where like Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, I think
Or
are
slick enough.
well, I
Yeah.
think first and foremost they're just popcorn films. I think
That's
that
what I
they're
mean.
disposable
And that's what
entertainments.
I mean. Yeah. And I'm kind of on board with you. Like, um, I like Kenneth Branagh as Poirot, and I think that both of these movies are those kind of perfectly enjoyable, forgettable kind of murder mysteries. And I like whodunits. I've just never been an Agatha Christie guy. So like to me, these are all brand new because like I'm not a big reader. I didn't watch a lot of Poirot that my mom was watching and my Oma would really love. But um Poirot was kind of like I knew of that character, but going into Orient Express, I hadn't I don't know any of these mysteries. So when people were coming back being like, well, Orient Express was the exact same thing, or Death on the Nile, pretty much they don't change much other than a few things that I know, Eric, that they changed, which we won't necessarily
Well, there's an
spoil.
obvious thing that they changed that, like, you can just I'll say it right now, and it's not going to spoil the movie, but with the addition of Kenneth Branagh coming back, you have Tom Bateman coming back as well, who is also in Murder on the Orient Express. His character is not in
Interesting.
Death on the Nile, and they change a couple things plot wise to include him
That
in the main
character, because
events.
yeah,
Yeah,
and that kind of is what makes the Branagh universe of Poirot, right? But I
yeah.
also like how they treat this character with this reverence because they know how much history this character has, and he's like an iconic character that has been around for a very, very long time. And even though Branagh's only really done two films with this character, and even how this one finishes, it almost seems like okay, he's done with the character now, possibly. And it almost is like a send off to at least his version of Poirot. And I find that really interesting that it's like a movie that can kind of have that reverence and have that history of a character because Poirot is so well known and has been around for so long that you can do things like that, or like the opening of this movie, which I actually do like quite a bit, where it's almost this superhero origin story
Well,
of
Poirot is kind of portrayed like a
it is.
superhero in
Yeah.
these two
Yeah,
movies.
totally. And that's what I thought was really kind of funny and tongue in cheek, like you were mentioning. And like it knows what it is. And that's when I tweeted like balances the silly with the
It's a
serious
lot of tongue in cheek in that opening prologue. Am I right?
yeah, that I think is actually handled quite well in both of these movies. And that whole opening, which is in black and white in World War I that you're talking
Belfast all
about,
over again.
um, which at first I was like, is this mono sound? No, I think it was just my theater had bad sound. And I like that whole sequence and that last line where, his love interest talks about being like, well, you're just going to have to grow a mustache. And then it slam cuts to like the opening of the movie. And I'm like, hell yeah, dude.
It also
Like this
reminded me
is
of The Dark Knight with like
yes.
Aaron Eckhart's Two-Face, right?
Yeah.
But
It's
how will you
so
love me now?
yeah, but it's that, but then just you'll have to grow a mustache. Like it's his like his cape or his superpower or
Yeah.
whatever, right? Like it's like someone telling Superman, like you're just gonna like whatever I'm not a big Superman guy, I forget. But like, of Clark crashing on Earth and like, him having to protect everyone.
Well,
Like
it's
there's
like when
um
Christian Bale's Batman tells Joseph Gordon-Levitt, you're going to need to wear a mask.
Yeah, like stuff like that. It's so funny though. Like I literally laughed so hard and went fuck yeah, under my breath.
It
And
is
like,
good.
I don't even care about this character or these movies that much, but it was like that moment right away set me off of like, I'm fucking in. Poirot, you need to solve this crime, dude. And like, I almost wish they even had more fun with it, because the movie does then settle in and kind of does take itself pretty seriously. There are silly moments, there are tongue-in-cheek moments, it's campy at times, like, Gal Gadot's acting's not super great, and like the cast is, some people are I like, Annette Bening a lot. I even like Russell Brand quite a bit in this. um but then you have the problematic elements of Armie Hammer and even Gal Gadot to an extent, and
Well,
Letitia
Russell
Wright,
Brand
and
as
like,
well.
and Russell Brand too, right? Like,
Yeah.
so, you know, it's kind of, that makes it a little bit awkward, and that's always in your head throughout the whole thing. And then as a whodunit, like, I was always engaged. And going back to the thing that I think maybe I was shit talking our friend Peter, that he was shit talking me because I said I solved it right away, and he's
And
like,
then you guys
Matt,
had
this is
shiitake mushrooms.
yeah, he's like, this murder mystery's been around for 80 years or whatever, and I'm like, guess what? New to me. I
But
haven't
you know
seen
what?
it.
You've probably
Um,
seen variations of it. I mean, we talked about this on the regular show, and even with Five Cream, we've been getting a lot of murder mystery
yeah,
whodunits recently, and like obviously
and we
Knives
also
Out.
just watch a lot of movies too.
Yeah,
So
Knives Out popularized it, but I also think the other guy who doesn't get enough credit, I think, in a way, who borrows a lot from Agatha Christie with the movie is Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight.
yeah,
So like it's just it's something, it's like a tried and true formula. It doesn't necessarily reinvent the wheel, but it does tweak it enough where it's like, okay, we're gonna change up certain things. Like, even again, this isn't really a
you
spoiler.
can
Like,
talk about things they change without giving it away. Yeah,
yeah, the other thing that they do change a little bit, and I can see like traditionalists or purists of Agatha Christie's work and the Poirot series kind of being like, "Oh, I don't really like this." One, I mean, like Kenneth Branagh, like his physical appearance is not what Poirot has always been described as. Poirot has always been kind of short and stocky. But the other thing is, in this, that I think some people will be a little bit upset, who are fans, is that Poirot's never been an emotional person, and there's some emotional depth with this version of the character, and Branagh does some really good stuff here with this one, very generous close up on his face in one scene. But it is a good scene. But like, I can see someone being like, "That's not my Poirot. Poirot doesn't he's a
hashtag not my
cipher."
Poirot. All
Yeah.
the all the 85-year-olds going onto Twitter.
Yeah.
And
Toxic fandom of
of
85-year-olds.
grandmas going, not my Poirot. Uh,
My nan calls, it's like, we
yeah,
just want David Suchet back.
yeah.
Yeah, and so I could see, like,
I guarantee you, no one
oh, no,
cares.
no, no, and neither do I. But like, I just thought that was interesting, where it was like, okay,
Totally.
this is giving Kenneth Branagh some sort of meat to
Something
chew
to,
on for the
yeah,
character, right? And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um yeah, and there are some changes, so you're not totally wrong for being like, oh, this is new to me. It's that the additional tweaks are just enough to add some additional intrigue into where things go. And I also think it is kind of funny where you have Americans playing British, Scottish playing French. Like, it's just
It's silly.
it's
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 just like a,
very silly.
it's just, yeah.
But
And
it's a fun Friday
that's
afternoon,
what
or
I
or
mean.
Sunday afternoon, a cup of tea, watch it at
I'm
home when
telling
it's
my,
on
I'm
Disney
like, mom, yeah,
Plus.
you definitely should watch Death on the Nile. Like, that's the kind of, the crowd that I would suggest it to, or anyone who's even half interested in it. I'm like, you'll have an okay time. And even if, like, again, I had no idea, I knew nothing of Death on the Nile, nothing on Murder of the Orient Express. So like, me right away going, and Nevis the same goes, oh, that's gonna come back. Oh, that's probably what's gonna happen. And then I never strayed from that. And I was like, oh, that's exactly what happened. Okay. That didn't disappoint me, because I don't know if these things, Eric, and I'll allude to them, but there's a couple other twists and turns that they throw in there
And
at
red
the end.
herrings.
Yeah. That I was like, they always gave me a little bit more than just the obvious thing that I thought they were driving towards to, whether that's This isn't spoiling anything because we haven't even said who is the person that gets killed that they're trying to solve, but there's multiple murders, which I was like, oh, okay, that adds a little bit more because I thought it was just going to be the one person.
It becomes an episode of Murder, She Wrote,
Yeah, it's a
basically,
little
where
silly. It
Poirot
gets
is
really
like almost
silly.
like the
Yeah.
Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
Death
It's really,
follows him wherever he
yeah.
goes.
And then there's a couple other, things that are red herrings or different things that try to get you away from who the actual killer is. That I liked, but I ultimately never strayed from. There's one moment that, and I think people talked about this in After Party and other whodunits where, you know, ultimately they want to outsmart you, but you got to think that it's made for a mass audience and not everyone's going to be dissecting every frame or everything a character is saying. Some people just go and watch the movie, right? And
Mhm.
then that's why they're surprised by the killer, right? Or I'm sitting there going, I'm gonna outsmart you, you motherfucker. And then like once they reference, a certain item, uh, or whatever, I go, oh, okay, that's what it is. And then a moment happens and I go, oh, that's what's happening. And
Oh,
then you're
yes,
like,
my penis pump went missing.
yeah, exactly. The death of Austin Powers. So I think it's perfectly fine. Like
Yeah.
again, I don't have much more else to say about it. It's like if you like Agatha Christie, if you like Poirot, if you like whodunits, like I think
If you
it's
like
slick.
mustaches,
Yeah, it's great mustache. If you like superheroes with mustaches, that's basically what Poirot is in this. And
I
like
mean, it's
I
like
think
Invincible, basically. The
yes.
J.K. Simmons voice
Yeah, yeah,
character.
yeah.
The other thing I will say as well that I also kind of laughed at the way that you like. I also laughed at the opening sequence, and it was like when that happens and it's like literally we just spent like almost 10 minutes getting the origin story of this mustache. But the other moment where I did laugh quite a bit and I was like, you know what, this movie has a sense of playfulness, is the scene where they're in Giza and they're about to board the SS Karnak, and or they're it's just like the honeymoon, and they're at the hotel, and Emma McKay's character kind of comes in wearing the red dress with the gold, and it's in slow motion. I was just
Yeah,
like, you
and
know what?
the symmetrical kind of like the camera goes up
Yeah,
and she
and
walks
everybody's
like,
like,
yeah, and she's so over the top, and then like, yeah, I totally
it's,
agree with you,
it's
and
very
it's
funny.
those moments, and like Neva shared a tweet with me of people like just Gal Gadot being over the top, and there are those moments where it's like really really silly, but then also takes itself seriously. And I don't know. I think there's like a fine balance that I'm like, this works. These movies are perfect 3 out of 5 movies. Like
Yeah.
it's just like they don't really need to be anything more than that. And like I would take 5 more of these. Like
Oh, totally.
if these came out every 3 years and Branagh's just like, I'm gonna do another, Poirot movie and it's I'll change a few things, but it's ultimately just going to be a modern, slick version of the Agatha Christie mystery. I'd be like, yeah, I'm cool. I'll go see these. Like I'll eat a bucket of popcorn and some Reese's peanuts and like and a hot dog. Like
I'll grow
that's
a
how
sweet
I
mustache.
yeah, God, and that opening, I think the opening itself is worth it. Like there's a reveal and then the mustache line, and I'm probably overselling it, but I hope
You're
when you
not.
see
You
it,
can't.
it's like
It's incredible. Like
because
it
it's like a
makes the whole
Marvel movie. Like
movie. Yeah.
I'm gonna recut that with the Marvel logo
You know what?
coming
I'm
up
gonna
right after
spoil
it.
something. 3, 2, 1. Kenneth Branagh de-aged is
Oh, it's really
hilarious.
funny. That's
but it
not a huge spoiler, but yeah,
but it is kind of
his
like,
lips looked even weirder than Billy Loomis's.
yeah, but he
Sorry.
does look the most like what young Kenneth Branagh looks like. Like looking at
Sure.
him, even though he's still
He
very
looked
much
like he had
uncanny
no
valley.
lips. Like no lips.
Yeah, but
Like
it is funny just like watching him
I
being
love
like,
the yes, he has no lips. And like I love that too, because I know nothing about the character and shit. So I'm thinking that's Poirot right away. And I'm like, because his like
because
captain has that mustache.
and that guy
And
actually I thought was like, I for a second, I because like his ears and his facial structure is very similar to Michael
well they yeah.
Fassbender.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. You're not wrong there.
And I was like, "Was that
Um
Michael Fassbender, like, in an uncredited
that would
role?"
be great, but no. But that whole sequence with the reveal of the captain having the mustache, his de-aged face is like, I can't wait for this to be on Disney Plus because I'm gonna rip that scene and put the Marvel Studios logo right after she goes, "You'll have to grow a mustache," and it's like dun 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 dun, and like have the Marvel logo come up, and I'm like, it's perfect. Or I'll make like a Poirot version of like Poirot Studios or something, and
I
do
would be
that
totally
because it's
down
like,
for Poirot to be in the Marvel
I mean,
universe.
hey, Branagh, bring him in. Um,
He is very
w-
good. Like I know we already said it, but like he I think is actually really really good in that role. Like
I agree.
again, like I will to your point, like I would rather watch another 5 or 6 of these than ever have to watch another Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes movie.
I don't disagree there. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. Like,
I'm also going to give it a 3 out of 5. The only thing I would say like in terms of like criticism is probably maybe cast people that aren't going to like
right, aren't awful. Yeah,
yeah.
I hope on the next one if he does. Do you think he does make a next one? Because I almost took that last sequence without spoiling anything as a like, I'm good.
I mean there's always an opportunity to
I
come
guess
back.
he's
I
already
mean,
had such a history at this point. You could go to cases that are before this, right?
yeah, or you can do one where like I think there is
No
one where like
mustache though.
he comes back where like it's like he comes out of
I'm thinking I'm back, and he
yeah.
grows the
I'm
mustache
thinking I'm
again.
stash. Um yeah, I mean like I mean even though some of the cast in this movie and one cast member in particular in the last one is problematic, the
I think you
cast
gotta commit to it. Just cast the most awful people every
the casts
movie.
are kind of incredible in terms of who he was able to get. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
forgot that Olivia Colman and Penelope Cruz were in the first movie. And like
yeah.
that's ridiculous how good of actors he's able to I mean obviously he can because he's Kenneth Branagh, but um yeah, like even someone like I am curious with Emma McKay who's good, but because she looks so much like Margot Robbie, I do wonder if like
Her, Samara Weaving, and Margot Robbie have to play like sisters in a movie.
yeah, I do wonder though if like Margot Robbie was offered that role first or like I don't know. So
Maybe, maybe. Thank you all for listening or watching. We really do appreciate it. As I've been plugging on a lot of the content, if you like whodunits, go listen to our 5 Cream review. It was a spoiler-filled conversation between Eric and I, where we do talk about who Ghostface is in that movie, where we did not reveal who is Ghostface in this movie. And we also have a review up for the first couple episodes of The After Party, which is another great who done it. Similar to Scream, plays with, like movie genres and stuff like that. So I think you guys should all check out that on Apple TV Plus. It's fantastic. Um, like Eric mentioned, Knives Out 2. I hope it's not titled Knives Out 2. I will be so mad. They can't, right? Like, if it's just called Knives Out 2, that is lame.
yeah,
Um, there's so much whodunit stuff right now, which I'm all for. So
it's so hot right now.
and then go check out our 114th episode where we talk about Oscar nominations as well as a bunch of other stuff. YouTube podcast services, just search for Untitled Movie Podcast or head over to Letterboxd where our one-stop shop is Untitled_movies. You can find links to everything over there. As always, my name is Matt Rohrbeck. You can find more of my work around the internet, but mostly at untitledmoviepodcast.com and soon on Family Feud Canada. And you can follow me on all those social medias at Matt Rohrbeck.
And I'm Eric Marchin. You can find more of my video reviews on rogerstv.com/cinemascene and on the social medias at EM6211.
What am I supposed to do? You'll just have
Make
to
me
grow
a
a
believer,
mustache.
believer.
Oh God.
It
Oh
would
yeah,
be
that was in the
amazing if
trailer, wasn't it? For
yeah, in
the
the
first
first
one?
film, it would be amazing if that was like his intro music every time he's, appears in a scene.
I thought he was, yeah, which would be incredible. I thought originally when I saw that first trailer, because it had like the neon like cast, which they kind of have in this with the title cards. Um, I almost thought he was gonna go what's his name who does all the flamboyant, flashy, Baz Luhrmann. Like I thought he
Oh,
was gonna go the Baz Luhrmann route where it would have like modern music and like I think Agatha Christie fans and Poirot fans would be mad if he did that.
yeah.
But hashtag not my Poirot by everyone.